This car is without a doubt one of the quirkiest, weirdest, both loved and hated BMW M cars ever. The BMW M Coupe, also known as the clown shoe. And today we're going to find out what it's like to own a 2000 BMW M Coupe with the owner Dre. Since this is a 2000 model year M Coupe, it has the S52, a 3.2 liter inline six derived from the E36 M3, making 240 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque. It revs to 6,800 RPM, rear-wheel drive, 5-speed manual only. Later on, M Coupes did get the S54 from the E46 M3, making a bit more power, but this is an earlier car. From an exterior styling standpoint, you could see why it's a bit controversial and definitely unique. It's got kind of that shooting brake look to it. They took the Roadster version and just put a roof on it. It's got typical M touches, right? The quad exhaust tips out back, some M badges. Up front, it's essentially the same as the Z3M Roadster. It also has some aftermarket touches to it. So let's grab the owner, Dre. We're gonna hop in the car, take it for a drive, and I am very, very curious to hear why he chose this car, why he loves it, some of the interesting things about the BMW M Coupe. All right, we are in the car now with the owner, Dre.
What's up, everybody? I'm Dre.
Yes, you are Dre. I've been following this guy for years because you had like the orange 12C when I was a kid. I was in high school.
Wow.
And that was like my dream car. It still is one of my dream cars.
I love it.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of hate, but I love the 12C.
Yeah, it was just so awesome. But the BMW M Coupe.
Yes.
So you are very passionate about this car, which is why I'm so excited.
My favorite car of all time.
For somebody who's, let's highlight reel of what you've owned in the past.
Okay. Okay, so like starting with the cool cars,
Yeah.
when a little bit of money and success started flowing, first car was the SLS AMG.
Yep.
Not the GT, not the Black Series. Alu beam silver,
Yep.
carbon ceramics, red interior, carbon. Still one of my favorite cars of all time. Love that car, and it's one of the only cars I regret selling. But
The value certainly help that regret.
yes, the value certainly
Make it worse.
makes it worse. And then after that, the 12C in
Yeah.
McLaren orange. And I don't really like the color orange, but I said, if I'm getting a McLaren,
Gotta be
especially
McLaren.
my first McLaren, it's gotta be McLaren orange, because the McLaren F1 was my favorite car.
Okay.
So, yeah, got the McLaren 12C, and that was the first car I modified. Like, I changed the front bumper to an HS replica, Vorsteiner rear,
Yep, all the
lowered
carbon.
it, and then did some HREs. So
Yes.
that thing was crazy.
Your HRE budget is probably the GDP of a small country. Every car
dude.
gets HRE.
I spent well over 100 grand on just HRE wheels. It's embarrassing.
Top VIP customer there.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. I still don't get a discount. You know,
So you went from the 12C, S63 Coupe,
S63 Coupe,
You've had
G63.
G60, you've had recently the 600 LT, Aston Vantage GT3.
Yep.
So after having all these pretty awesome like supercars, what about the M Coupe? Because like that's pretty crazy, right?
It's quite a contrast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not what I'm used to getting, but it's always been my favorite car, the M Coupe. When I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, whatever it was, one of my neighbors got a silver one, and I said, what is this weird little car? And I loved it. And my mom was like, why do you like that? My dad was like, this is cool, but it's so weird. Like,
Yeah.
it's an ugly car. I said, no, I'm going to buy one day. And I was trying to convince my dad to buy one. But no, he was an M5 guy. He actually had an E39 M5.
Oh, dude, I love those.
Yeah,
That is amazing.
E39 M5.
Yeah.
And but nope. So this was my favorite car.
Okay.
But I never bought one because it was an older car.
Mhm.
Plus, I had a little bit of a bigger ego back then, so I wanted to look cooler. And this car was not going to get me any kind of status.
No, this doesn't get you parking into the valet at all.
No, at all. So, and I didn't have the time because I was working a lot, or the patience and effort to take care of an old car that needs love and nurturing. So anyway, fast forward a bunch of years, moved to the States, and sold the 600 LT because the move, getting visas, getting all this kind of investments and stuff like that to come to the States from Canada, like took a hit. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna, I need to start replenishing the bank account. So I'm not gonna start spending dumb amounts of money on cars. And I said, this is perfect. There's a great
time.
car shop that masters in BMWs, especially older ones, right around the corner from me. I think it's the right time to get an M Coupe. So that's what I did. Bought the M Coupe, and it's just brings me the most joy. Like, I sold the 600 LT, a month later got the M Coupe, and I smile way more driving this 130,000 mile dinky little
25-year-old car, right? Yeah.
Than I did with my, I don't know, 800 horsepower 600 LT that had flames shooting out the size of this car.
That's wild to say that,
it just
right?
brings
But that's
me more
passion.
joy. It's passion, and like even when I first got this, I was like, hey, the first thing I want to do, is add a little bit more power. 240 horsepower is not a lot.
Not much, yes.
But after driving it, and after I, brought this to the car shop and had everything just dialed in, ordered all new internal parts, thing drives like a dream.
Okay.
I was like, this doesn't need more speed. This is amazing the way it is.
Did you want an S54 one, or were you set with the S52?
So I wanted an S54 car. So the 2001, 2002 models had the E46 M3 engine. This has the E36 M3 engine. But they're too expensive.
Okay.
Like, I'm not about to spend 60 or 70 grand on a car like this.
Wait, that's how much a clean...
Oh, dude, the low mile S54s.
Yeah.
There's one for sale for 140 right now. Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, it is one of the rarest, right? Like it
is one of the rarest, and
under
especially
1,000, I think, of the S54 powered ones.
Yeah, and especially in like rare color combos.
Okay.
But I didn't care because I wasn't gonna keep this car stock. I wasn't gonna keep it as a collector. I wanted to make it my own. So, like, old photos in my phone from like 2012, 2013. There are photos of M Coupes on BBS LM wheels. And I was never even a big BBS guy.
Yeah.
But I knew that this car just looked so good with it. So first thing I did, ordered some BBS wheels after I got the car driving the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
The short shifter kit like just changed the experience as well. So it just drives so much better than it did when I got it. And my plans for this now is a full interior gut. I want to turn this car into a little piece of jewelry. So I'm kind of doing a Singer style.
Yeah, Singer-esque build.
Singer-esque build.
Yeah.
So doing Recaro bucket seats in a distressed cognac leather.
Okay.
Covering everything else in like a dark charcoal Alcantara.
Okay.
All these little gauges in here are going to be in some kind of like nice billet aluminum type of material.
Okay.
Redo the whole cluster, change the steering wheel. So it's going to really look like a gem.
What about exterior then?
Exterior, so I'm toying with the idea of doing a full repaint. Right now it's red.
Yes.
Red
over brown works, red over tan works.
Red over tan works, but I've always, like in my dreams when I was a little kid, I wanted a blue one.
Okay.
Right? And this car came in two blues. It came in Estoril blue, which is a little darker, and it came in Laguna Seca blue, which is a little brighter, a little bit of green in there. I actually want to do something that BMW people will hate, and I want to make it in Audi Nogaro blue.
Yes.
Which is one of my favorite blues.
If you're going to go to the effort of repainting it, do a non-normal palette color so you can tell.
Exactly.
Right?
And I want it to be unique.
Although everybody's going to be like, oh, it's wrapped. You're going to spend your whole life telling people it's painted.
Whatever they want. I don't care what they think. But I think Nogaro blue is a great car. It's got a little bit of metallic flake in there. And it'll be unique. It'll be a one of one. And a lot of people are going to say, dude, like, you're spending an absolute fortune on this car. The whole interior, the seats, whatever you're doing, the wheels. The repaint is just the repaint itself in a different color. It's like I got quoted like 10, 15K.
Oh.
And what I tell them is this is actually the first ever permanent car for me. This is a car I will never sell unless I'm in absolute dire financial need.
Okay.
But no, I don't want to ever sell this. It's car number one of the permanent collection.
Yeah.
And I've had all the modern new cars, Ferraris, Porsches, whatever. Everything except Lambo I've had. And they're all great, but I was always swapping them, and I feel like if you're constantly getting into new cars, swapping new cars, it's like, are you doing it to be cool? Are you doing it because you want to stay relevant? And I was like questioning myself, and I'm like, I want to just drive the cars that I've always loved.
Yeah.
Regardless of what anyone else thinks or whatever status it is, like I just want to drive what I like.
Yep.
So
I hear that.
We're slowly starting to build the list. I don't care who likes them or not.
Yeah.
So the M Coupe was the first. I think the second is going to be either a V12 Vantage S 2015 or a 997.2 GT3 or GT3 RS. So those are the next ones. CLK 63 Black Series. Those are cars that I really love.
The permanent collection, that's a good way to do it, because I got trapped in that thing too. I was swapping cars every 6 months to a year. We're like, oh, I want the next thing, sold my gated R8, RS7, then another R8, then whatever. Yeah. And it's definitely, but I've tried. For me, the Shelby 350R was going to be the car that was going to keep forever. Absolutely dream car, loved it.
It was manual, right?
Yes, manual, flat plane crank, 5.2 V8, loved my spec and everything, but I was never driving it. And then for me, like the financials and space came into a concern. Yeah. So once you get to the level where you can just have all the things and build out that collection, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
The M Coupe. What do you, So specifically about the car itself, like what would you say you love most about it in terms of like driving, the way it looks, like which of those
Okay,
things?
so I love the way it looks.
Okay.
This car, you either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. Every time I see this car, whether I'm looking at it in the parking lot, in the garage, anywhere, someone else's, I'm always like, this thing is so sick. It's so cool. I like small cars.
Okay.
Like I love small cars. That's why like I was driving an S63 back in the day, coupe, and I swapped it out for a C63 because I just I don't need the luxury. I want it to be small, nimble, tight.
Yeah.
And this is that. Like even though it's 240 horsepower, it feels a little bit quicker. It has a little bit of pep to it.
Yeah.
And I just love that it's so small and so curvy. Like it's thick. It's got hips,
It's got a
you
big,
know?
yeah.
And I'm a big fan of big hips on cars. That's why like I got the new M2. A lot of people hate the new M2, but I just love this super wide body. I love the CLK Black series because it has those big hips,
wide fenders and everything.
Wide fenders.
I feel like this passenger seat isn't working.
Yeah,
the motor,
it's not working.
So I feel like I'm in the dashboard right now because I'm not Dre sized. I'm 6'3" and I barely fit.
Yeah, I'm a little bit smaller. I match the car.
Yes,
I'm
you
small
match
and
the
thick.
car. See, I like the big S-Class coupes and the big luxury lane yachts.
Yeah, you need it. You're a big boy.
Exactly. I am much more.
No, but I love this car. Like from the day I saw it, I just think it's so beautiful, and I love the way it drives. It's pretty tight. Like the steering wheel itself is a little bit loose, but once you're actually driving and steering and like if you're taking it on the track, it's so responsive.
I thought I saw somewhere that this is for the era, it was the stiffest BMW they had.
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
that's what
more
I heard.
than the E36, more than the E46.
Well, because they designed it. Well, they designed it. They designed the M Roadster, and it was good at a lot of things, but it wasn't structurally sound. And apparently that was exactly. So apparently this car was designed in like the basement of BMW in Munich or whatever it was. And it was designed in secret as a Frankenstein.
Okay.
And there's only like 8 or 9 people in charge of it.
Wow.
And anyway, they finally released it, and it didn't do well at first.
No.
Like it's kind of like a shitty movie that, you know, turns into a cult classic.
Yeah.
Right?
It's appreciated decades later.
Exactly. But I've never stopped loving it, and I even said if this car, like if the engine ever goes or whatever, I'll just buy an S54
and swap it in.
And swap it in, because I don't plan on selling it.
Is there anything you dislike about it? What do you hate about the car? To pick something.
Okay, what do I hate about this car? Nothing.
Oh, nothing.
Honestly, there's nothing I hate about it. I hate that my brakes are giving out and I got to spend 10 grand on new brakes soon, but
10 grand?
That's what I got quoted on a Brembo big brake kit.
Oh, okay, well you're
But
upgrading.
I don't need big brake kit on this car.
For 240 horsepower.
No, but they got to look cool and fill it in, you know? But no, honestly, there's nothing I don't like. I really love everything about it. I don't like the way it sounds, but we're about to put an exhaust on it. So
there we go. Okay.
So that's okay. It sounds a little bland, and when you do open up everything, like there are some cool E36s that sound absolutely amazing. So I'm very excited to do that.
So regardless of if the engine goes or not, are you going to swap S54 or think you're going to keep it?
No, not unless unless it goes out, I will not touch it.
Okay.
Because it's still great. I have no issue with it. And what is it? Do I need an extra 80 horsepower? Like, this is my cruiser. Like I go to the grocery store, I go to Cars and Coffee, I go on my Sunday drives. Like, I don't need that much power to have a good time.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So yeah. Another reason I love this car, it's a 2-seater, which is great, but the trunk is like wide open.
I was just looking back there. It's pretty spacious.
It's a spacious trunk, and my dog absolutely loves it. I put a pillow back there, I throw him in the trunk, he jumps right in there.
Yeah.
We go on all our little adventures together, and so it's got a great trunk. And then the funny thing about this car is, like, I've had cool cars. And you know, people, they pay attention to it in traffic, and they give their respects or whatever, but never have I ever gotten love on the road like I do with this car. Like,
really?
I got out of a crazy modified 600 LT. Like, that thing was crazy. It was terrifying. I was scared to drive it. This car, I got it, even in its stock form, like when it was not lower, didn't have nice wheels or whatever, people were stopping me like, oh my God, I love your car. This thing is amazing. I think, one, because it's attainable.
Yes, exactly.
For some people,
I was gonna say that,
but two, it's because you just don't see it. And people are like, what is that? And they don't even know if it's an old car or a new car.
I think sometimes with the supercars,
obviously a lot of people love them, but there also can be resentment with some people. They see it and they're like, oh, there's some rich asshole,
Yeah,
right?
fuck
So
this
that
guy.
happens sometimes too.
Yeah.
But where something like this, a classic, like it's like a classic Porsche, you can't be angry at somebody driving a classic Porsche because it's just
No.
cool, right? Or like whatever it is.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and exactly. You'll see someone, let's say, driving a new 992 GT3 RS.
Yeah.
You might look at this guy like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
But if you see someone driving a 993 Turbo,
Yes.
it's nothing but respect,
Nothing
right?
but respect.
And that's another car that is
I would
on
love
the
a
list.
993. I don't like as many old cars, but 993. Oh,
993 Turbo is just beautiful.
I think one just sold for like $550 or something. You know, like
It's crazy. And if I got that car, I would probably do the GT2 conversion kit with the bolted-on fenders.
Yeah.
Or a roof kit.
Okay.
I used to call it rough, but apparently it's roof.
Eloise roof.
Yeah. So doing one of those.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So now I'm just in my kind of like modern classic era.
Yeah.
I'm over the new cars. I love them. They're all amazing. But after you've driven them,
You've done it.
it's like, look, anything over 500-600 horsepower, it's fast. It drives well.
Yes.
They don't really brake anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like,
What's the point? They're all...
it's hard for me to be actually impressed. And
Okay.
a lot of these cars, they're great, but they don't have a lot of soul.
Mhm.
They're lacking in that department. And this car, it's not fast, but it's got so much soul and so much personality that it's such an absolute joy to drive.
Shall we swap? Can I try it out?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. All right, the first thing we're discovering is the M Coupe is not necessarily Eddie size. So the seat, I can move this one back. The steering wheel is quite large for the size of this interior,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. Actually, I was browsing this morning new steering wheels. 'Cause
Smaller
it's
diameter?
way too big.
So you've done short throw shifter, lowered it, new suspension? Or?
Yeah, so you did KW V3 coilovers.
Okay.
And
The wheels,
Good
got
wheels, the
Michelin
BBS
PS4S tires, modern
yeah,
tires.
PS4S tires. We did a custom build on BBS LMs.
Okay.
Yeah, so ordered a set, an old set from an old car, had custom barrels made and lips and all that stuff. So unique colors and whatever. So yeah, very excited. I love the BBS LMs. I think they're great. There we go.
The steering wheel is weird. It feels so small.
The car?
Yeah.
It feels like you're driving a go-kart.
I don't think I'm the right size for this car.
No. That's when you pulled up this morning.
Yeah.
I was like, he's barely gonna fit in this thing.
I am taller than a lot of people expect. 6'3"
Yeah.
Asian. We're rare.
Very, very rare.
Although my youngest brother is like 6'4", 6'5". So
No way.
We have tall genes.
Wow.
We have tall genes. So yeah, a lot of stuff on the inside is. Some stuff is familiar, but this stuff is like the little metal rings around
Yeah.
the dials is really cool.
Mhm.
And my shoes are too big for this.
Uh,
I remember when I drove a gated manual Ferrari 550, I had to take my shoes off.
no way.
Because my feet were too big, and I was pushing the clutch and the brake at the same time.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's definitely not fast, but with the manual, it's the whole analog engagement.
Yeah.
And I miss this era of car.
Me too.
E39 M5 is still one of my top 3 favorite M cars.
It's so.
E39 M5, the M2 CS, and the M5 CS. So
Okay.
like very modern and then old. I remember loving the E39 M5 so much.
It's just an iconic car. Like
Yes.
I love that thing. It's not something that I want to buy. I do want an E46 M3.
Okay.
But every BMW from that era is just awesome. I remember my dad had bought a Z8,
Ooh. Okay.
and I was like, that's such a random car. But I always loved it because I love James Bond. I love
Yeah.
Aston Martin, and I love Aston Martin. That's my favorite car brand because of James Bond when I was a
Gotcha.
kid. And that car was a James Bond car.
Yes.
And turns out he got an insane deal on it because it was a salvage title.
Oh.
I guess he didn't care.
Yeah.
Right? And it drove perfect. It was a great car. It just didn't have a great title.
Yes.
So you bought it for cheap, you sell it for cheap, but it doesn't matter. I guess he was planning on keeping it.
Gotcha.
I did sell it after he passed away, but yeah, that era of BMW I think is known as the golden era.
I think if I had a lot of funds too, I would do what you're talking about doing this to an E39 M5.
Yeah.
To me, the V8, I always liked it more than the E46 M3.
Mm-hmm.
Never actually, I know people love the E46. I was never the hugest fan of the sound. That was a
Okay.
problem, especially with an exhaust. Maybe I heard someone with bad exhaust. It sounded like a weed whacker to me, and so I wasn't ever
Fair.
the biggest fan. All the BMW fanboys are gonna be very angry at me now. This was also kind of, BMW always was emphasizing the M3, so they almost suppressed this car. They
Yeah.
didn't give it the due attention or anything, because I don't think they wanted to take away from the M3 sales, because M3 was always like the Halo sports car.
Yeah,
because
that was the
theoretically,
car.
this would be lighter and could be better performing, better handling. They could have done more with just a little car like this. I think the Z4 is the same way.
Yep.
As you run even a modern Z4, right? Like your M2 would walk circles probably around a Z4, but theoretically a Z4 should be better than the M2.
It should be.
But packaging and everything, and weight and dynamics and everything.
It's weird. Like, I don't like BMW builds great cars. I don't know why they haven't like made a cool supercar. Other than the i8.
My i8 was such a great...
Other than the
that was not a
i8.
supercar. I will, as a previous owner, I would say that was not a supercar. It just looked the part.
It was exotic.
It was exotic. It was an exotic
it was
daily
exotic.
driver. That's what it was.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like, and I've got a couple buddies who have them, and they absolutely love them.
Yeah, if you have one,
And-
you know what it's like.
Yeah, and they're good-looking cars. But like, BMW can build an awesome sports car, supercar.
Yes.
And I don't know why they haven't done it yet.
Like, why did they not do a proper R8 competitor?
Exactly.
Yeah, and Mercedes fiddled with the AMG GT SLS. They've done it, right? They've done it pretty extensively. Yeah, this is a cool experience. I can see what you say about it's more the overall experience, right? The looks, the character. Maybe people like wanted to check it out because it's so unique.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna go around telling people this is the best car ever. This is my favorite car.
Okay.
And I have a lot of favorite cars that were not great cars. Right? Like the SLS AMG was one of my favorite cars that I've had, but it's basically just a German muscle car.
Yeah, it is.
That does
Tail
amazing
happy,
burnouts.
yeah.
It's not the fastest, it's not the best handling, but overall, it's just awesome.
Because of the character.
It's
right?
got character.
Sports cars are emotional purchases, and I loved hearing about why you love this car, right? Seeing as a kid and everything like that.
Yeah, and then actually, when the Ferrari FF came out,
Yes.
was one of the best days of my life because I love Ferrari.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness. They have created a giant Ferrari M Coupe.
Yes, it's an Italian M Coupe with
It was
a V12.
a two-door, naturally aspirated V12 Ferrari shooting brake.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Obviously, I couldn't afford it at the time. And the one day I will buy either a Lusso or an FF.
A Lusso is real nice.
Yeah, they won't be part of the permanent collection, but it's just something that I would love to have as a daily.
Yeah, that would be a fantastic daily.
I think maybe if a Lusso ever gets to sub 150K,
I think
V12,
Lusso T's were Lusso T's were starting to. Oh my god, I stalled again.
Yeah.
I know how to drive manual.
The Lusso T is awesome, but it's a T. I want the non-T.
You want V12. You don't want twin turbo V8 when you're buying at that price point.
Exactly, and I'm sure it's still great, but actually, I hate the Ferrari twin turbo V8.
Really?
So I've had the 488.
You had a Portofino, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a 488 and a Portofino, so I'm very familiar with that. With that engine, it's great performing, but I always hated the way it sounded.
Okay.
Actually, that's pretty much the only reason I hate it. I just don't like the way it sounded.
Have you driven a straight pipe Pista?
I've not driven a straight pipe Pista, but I'm talking stock.
Okay, yeah.
I'm talking stock.
Yeah, stock. It's not the most. A McLaren engine is a little more charismatic.
Exactly, and having driven the McLarens, I just preferred that better.
Okay.
Though, I was so surprised when I drove the 296 GTB.
Oh my gosh.
That Piccolo V12, which is baby V12 as they call it, sounded way better in stock form than the twin turbo V8 from Ferrari. And people are like, oh, it's a V6. I said, who cares?
I don't care.
It's awesome.
It was, SF90 was boring as heck. The most boring 1,000 horsepower car I've driven. F8
right there with you.
Also was a little bit boring. 296, holy crap.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
And honestly, that's why I did not buy an F8, because at one point I was playing the Ferrari game to try to get the good cars, but it's just too dumb and too expensive. I don't like to play those games. But
296 was so good that I'm on the wait list for a GTS right now, even though it's probably a $500,000 car and I don't have that kind of money right now. And I was like,
it's still so
it's probably a 3 to 5 year wait. I'm like, that is fine. I need time to save up money.
Yeah, it gives you time. It gives, it gives you a goal to hit.
I don't know if I would take it, but it was such a just exhilarating experience.
Oh yeah, but no, like that when I drove the F8, I thought it was so much more beautiful than a 488.
Agreed.
And that's what I didn't like about the 488 was I didn't love that engine, but I also didn't love its looks. It's not an ugly car. It's a beautiful car, but it's just The F8 came out way prettier, but when I drove it, I was like, okay, this is just a slightly faster 488. There's nothing different. The interior's been pretty much the same since the 458.
Yes.
And I wanted, like, if I'm gonna spend 400 to 500K on a car, on a sports car that is modern, it better have like the best modern tech and the newest stuff. And then I test drove the 296 and I was like, this is a modern Ferrari. This is how it should be, though there are a few too many touch pads on it.
It is a little bit annoying.
A little bit too electronic, and my buddy has one and he's not happy with the
I keep triggering the
electronics.
voice assistant in those things.
Oh,
Speaking of that, actually, look at this. There's nothing on a steering wheel. It's just a steering wheel.
That's the best.
There's an M logo, and that's it.
Yep.
So let's talk about value. How much are these things now? The non-S54, S54 ones talked about.
Yeah.
They get pretty pricey. How much do you get like a nice S52 one for?
So let's say an S52, somewhere between 75,000 to 100,000 miles.
Okay.
You're going to be paying around 35 grand.
Really?
Yeah, 35 to 40
Okay.
grand if it's in good condition.
Okay.
Low mile S52, you're in the 70s. And low mile S54, you're in the 90s
So
to
that's,
100.
that's a
plus.
lot more than an equivalent E36 or E46 by far.
Yep. No.
That's just-
the clean low mile clown shoe
Yeah.
M Coupes, way more valuable than an E46 and an E36.
Do you know how they compare to just like a Z3M Roadster?
Oh, Z3M Roadster, there is no value.
Oh, really?
No,
Those-
I mean, I guess unless you find one with sub 5,000 miles.
Okay,
yeah,
so those aren't anything special either, Z3s and stuff.
No, they've made millions of them, I would assume.
And
They're
this
everywhere.
is low production. These are like, it was something like in the 2000s range for the S52 and like
Yeah.
under 700 for the S54.
Yeah,
so
they
are
did not
very
produce a lot.
rare.
Nobody wanted to buy them
Yeah.
when they were new.
And now that means they're valuable.
Yeah, they're very valuable. I think they're a little too expensive, honestly, but
Okay.
this car was for sale. Like I said, I didn't need a perfect car because this is a project car for me. I'm gutting, I'm doing all kinds of different things. I just needed a good shell and a decent paint and interior quality.
Okay.
So this car had 130,000 miles when I bought it.
136.5 now?
Yep, in about a year. And
nice.
how much did I pay? It was for 30,000. I offered him 25, and he accepted. So I paid
All right.
25 grand for this car.
Okay.
I've had it for a year, and I've already spent 30 grand on it. So we're at 50, 55, 60K.
Don't follow this channel for investment advice.
No, and like I said, I don't plan on
It doesn't
selling
matter.
this car.
So yeah, if it's a forever keeper, you're trying to make it the way you want.
Yeah, and I've got another 30 to spend on it.
Oh.
Which, yeah, it hurts, but it's just gonna look great. Like, the priority now is not necessarily buying cars. As I said, moving from Canada to the US with investments, visas, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, hit the bank hard. So now the focus is just building the new business,
Yep.
and then I want to build a house in
Okay.
Arizona. So that the priority is not cars; it's
Yep.
building the house, and I want to have a barn
Okay.
that looks really old school,
Okay.
but that house is 7 or 8 of my dream cars.
So that's the opposite of your house in Canada, because your house in Canada was ultra modern, badass, insane. I
super
love
modern,
that.
contemporary.
Yeah,
It had
so
porcelain floors
Yes.
in the showroom garage.
Yes.
The next one will be a totally different kind of vibe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Try different things.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
BMW M Coupe. Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much, Dre.
Hey, no problem, man.
This
Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, of course. This is like a different era.
Mm-hmm.
What was I just driving recently? Last week I had a Kia EV6 GT. I should do the donuts in that thing, right?
Yeah,
and,
that's awesome.
And a Maserati MC20. So like that's what I've been driving, which is the most modern of modern stuff.
Yeah, as
and
new
then
as
you
it
go
gets.
back, over 2 decades.
Yep. And then
And so what is
probably-
considered now a classic BMW.
Oh yeah, this is a classic. And
Yeah.
then once, like, I'm assuming you'll be back in Arizona like next winter.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
you seem to always be here.
Yep.
When
I
you
gotta,
see this
I gotta
car,
flee the cold, right?
yeah. When you see this car next year, it'll
We gotta
look
do an
and
after.
feel like a totally different car.
We'll have to do an after video.
Yeah.
Yes.
You might not have to make a whole YouTube video, but you can do a YouTube short.
Yeah, no, it'll be worth. I think it'll be worth it because I would love to see all the little details you do if you're gonna do the interior and things like that. Because
Yeah.
this is clearly a passion project, and that makes it much more special.
Exactly. And I think aside from my daily drivers, all of my next cars that I will be buying are all going to be passion projects.
That's
cars
awesome.
that I really love, cars that like look, I will buy a 997.2 GT3 RS.
Yes.
And probably the first thing I'm going to do to it is have it repainted completely into a PTS color that
Yeah.
you couldn't get the car in back
Yeah.
in the day. Why? Because I'm not going to spend $400K on a PTS car.
Yeah.
I'll spend a normal amount and then make it my own.
And if you're never gonna sell it, the value doesn't really matter because some purists will lose their minds over that.
Yeah.
Tim Schmee, he's faced some backlash because he's repainted like his SLS Black Series.
Yeah.
People are like, oh my gosh, well, if he's never gonna sell the car, why does it matter?
And also,
Make
like,
it the way you want it.
I don't understand why the purists get so mad. Look at the McLaren F1. I think half of them have been
That's
repainted,
true,
they've
yes.
been
Half of them have been
reupholstered.
completely rebuilt because they've been totaled. You can't total that car.
Exactly, and nobody
back-
cares. So
yeah.
it's like, if I'm buying a McLaren F1,
Yeah.
I don't care what color it is, because maybe I'll just, like, if it's not a spec that I like, and
Yeah.
I have enough money to not care, then I'm going to, you can turn right. then yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
I think that attitude is changing. You see people repainting Carrera GTs these days now.
Yep, I've seen it.
So, all right, let's take one turn at speed and see what this feels like. Oh, it scraped a little bit.
Yeah, that's
We're
okay.
bottoming out a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay.
It is quite low.
It is. It's very low. I like
It
my
looks
cars
good.
low.
Yes, your fitment is very, very nice.
Yeah. No. People's perceptions are changing, and I think like, look, if you buy a nice, awesome Porsche, you can, if you have it painted by them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, then I think that helps a little bit.
Yeah, it's part of the whole history of the car now. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least a certified something, or like even let's say you swap out the interior or whatever you want to do to it, as long as you keep the stock parts. Like you obviously can't keep a stock paint job, but for the rest of the things, it's like I've modified every single car I've ever had since I got my license.
Yeah.
And I've never sold or thrown the stock pieces.
Gotcha. Almost one.
Like I see so many people are modifying their cars and immediately like selling their stock grill or their stock bumper.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
exhaust.
but the guy who buys your car,
They
like
want it.
they want that, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna want that when
Yeah.
I buy it, even if I'm not gonna use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally
Way
like
to view it.
definitely now into the passion projects.
That's good. Well, this has been what it's like to own a BMW M Coupe, along with a bunch of random tangents into other fun car-based discussion topics.
Yeah, I love talking about cars.
Oh yeah, same.
You know, when
that's why I do this.
Exactly. And like I also like fiddled with the idea of becoming a car YouTuber, and I had a lot of cool cars to show, cool house and whatever like that, but I just never got myself to do it. But I love talking about cars.
Yeah.
So I have toyed with the idea of doing a podcast.
Yes.
So
those are fun.
Either called The Daily Dre or the Wheel Deal.
The second one.
Yeah, but there are just so many car podcasts out there that
Yes.
I'd rather just be guests on other people's YouTube shows and podcasts. And I think it's more fun for me. I don't have to do any work other than drive and
show up.
provide a clean car. So yeah, we're all good,
I appreciate
man.
it.
Thank
Check
you for
out Drive with Dre on Instagram.
Yep.
You will not regret it. This man has some pretty awesome cars and pictures of those cars.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Spent some quality time with you.
Yes,
man.
and the BMW M Coupe. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.